geeks and goons, and welcome to episode 146 of the FReality Podcast. Happy 4th of July to all our friends stateside. We hope you're all having a safe and well time with your friends and family, and join us for the next couple of hours while we discuss the latest VR news. This week we're going to be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the Valve Index. We discuss a new sleek-looking prototype for some small form-factor VR glasses from Facebook Reality Labs. Nathan will be talking about his hands-on experience with Iron Man VR on the PSVR. And finally, Zim's got some new VR releases for you to look forward to next week. But for now, let me introduce you to the team, find out what's been the highlight of the week this week, and also let us know what you played this week in the chat so we can read out some of your highlights too. So first up to the plate, no objects or people are safe with this madman around when he's in VR. It's my blonde friend and destroyer of walls is, of course, Nathy. How you doing? How's the hand?
It's doing well. Although my arm was a little sore after that punch. Yeah, it really felt like I punched straight through my wall this time. Of course, I punched many things because I have been in VR for 84 years now. So, but this was like seriously, this was like the most intense punch I've ever done, and this was with the Move controller, because I feel like I was always protected by the Oculus controller or the Vive one, but this one is your fingers are around it, so the first thing that hits are your fingers. So this was pretty rough, I would say. So what I was doing, I was playing Iron Man. I wanted to punch an enemy, and then I was standing too close to my wall. I already kind of knew I was in that danger zone because it's a front-facing experience, and I kept turning around to my wall. So then I punched it, and you could hear me, because I posted a clip on Twitter. You can really hear me like, ugh, and then it's like, ouch. But it really hurt. And then yesterday, I almost fell. I almost fell over because I was so tangled up in my cable, but I was in a moment where I could just not stop. I had to kind of finish it up. So I was already like, oh, this game is so good that I'm getting tangled up. It's usually a good sign, because then you're like totally immersed. But then I almost fell with my cable, and my cable was completely ruined. Like, I've never ever seen it being so bad. So I don't know what's up, but something wants me dead. I don't know what it is,
Wow.
But it's like, you can say whatever I am. I'm super pro. It doesn't happen that much, but these 2 days, I just wasn't in luck. But something else I wanted to actually quickly, talk about, or actually ask, is like, I saw this tweet of someone saying something like, what do you want more of in VR? Mm-hmm. Could be anything. I mean, is there a certain desire that you personally, feel? Also in the chat, like, well, what's something that, you're looking for? What are you missing?
Okay. Do you want to answer this first, Zim, or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first, Mike, on this one.
Okay. So I just want more games. That's as plain and simple as that. Okay. Because I think we have a lot of games in VR right now, but I think the amount of games that hit that real high quality bar, we're going to get more into this later on when we talk about the Valve Index and Valve and Half-Life Alyx, etc. But the problem is that kind of set the bar so high now that we don't really have many other games that match it in terms of quality, storytelling, driven experience. So that's what I want probably more than anything else, because it's the software that drives hardware adoption. It's not hardware that drives software adoption. It's the other way around. So that's probably something that I would want more than anything else in VR right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and my side is pretty simple. I can remember maybe 8 years or something ago now when I first played Left 4 Dead for the first time and had no idea what it was. I want a game that is a system seller, just one social experience, something that's going to do like VR chat spiked at one stage, Beat Saber's been super popular, right? But I want a game that's going to pull everyone together and have you staying up late at night and like really pushing what you like, why I want to jump into the game,
Are you like something like, for example, we have seen with Fortnite, where everyone knows about it and everyone knows how social it is, how much fun it is to also. It's a game, of course, but it's like the social aspect of that is like huge.
Yeah, I mean, could be anything. I really don't care what it is. I just want something that's got a hook that's so gripping that it's almost unavoidable. You know, that people just, and I know it's going to happen. I just want that to happen. So it's going to happen, but it would be great if that happened this year. Yeah.
No, I do agree. I think like hardware wise, I think we're settled in a good way for now. I don't think we need something super next level. But of course, games are definitely going to push us into the right direction. Something else that I also want to see more is the shopping experience of VR headsets, where it's easier to first of all make a choice, and also easier to be guided on what you personally should be buying, because I feel like it's a minefield. No one seems to really understand how things they just look for a VR headset, and that's where it already goes wrong, because people then end up on all these websites and no one seems to really be able to tell the difference between all of those, HMDs. It's super complicated.
Yeah, and even with Oculus, just with two products, it's complicated, and it's a difficult answer to give anyone that says, should I buy a Rift S or a Quest? Like, you have to sit that person down and have a good 5 to 10 minute discussion with them and discuss what they need out of a VR headset to give them a reasonable answer. And to go even further, I was going to talk about Pimax today because they had an event this week, but I just started looking at the information that they provided in their Too Long Didn't Read section, and it was just like, I don't even understand a lot of this stuff anymore. Like, it's so fractured with multiple SKUs with different names, and artisan added to some names, and then an X added onto the end of some names. And it's just like, if I was a first time buyer of a VR headset and I was looking at a Pimax, for example, I would have no idea what to buy. I would have no clue.
I think that in general, VR headsets need to be simplified, like buying a TV. Nowadays, people know that 4K is just sharper. That's all they know, and that it looks better. And the way they advertise that, it's like, whoa, look at all these cool movies you can watch, and it's really coming out of the screen. It's so immersive. I think that's what they should do with VR. They should translate all those things that you just named, all those specs that are just hard to understand, and translate them into something more, something easier, something that you can better understand.
The problem is also that, when you go and buy a TV, you go to a TV shop and you look at all the different TVs and they show these lovely demo reels of stuff, and you just pick the one that looks nice to you, right? The problem is you can't do that with a VR headset. Well, you couldn't before, and you definitely won't be able to do that in the near future because of obviously, the pandemic. So the only thing that people can do is rely on information sources like this podcast, our own individual channels, and our recommendations. And I think that's what's driven consumer choices up to this point. But it's definitely something that the VR industry needs to address in the future.
But it needs, we're talking a majority of consumers are not going on the internet to constantly look everything up. They might go to the store, they might go to some websites, but it's just like, if you just think about, if you now go on the internet looking for a headset, it's like you don't get educated on what's a console headset, what's a mobile headset, what's a PC VR headset. It's like no one knows, because all these websites are all telling a different story, and it needs to be more universal, so they can point to each other saying like, oh yeah, this is why this and that and that. Same with TVs, right? Everyone knows a TV is just a TV. But with VR, for some reason, it's like, yeah, but that headset looks different, so then it must be doing something different, right? But it's just in the end, it's just the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I think I think there's been a problem that the industry has faced since its reinception of consumer VR.
But that ends up in people buying the wrong headset, or getting the worst experience. And
I think ultimately the person that wins is the one that has the best marketing, from PlayStation.
No, you're right.
Amazing marketing. We've also seen really great marketing from Oculus as well. With these kind of mixed reality trailers. The Defy reality trailers. I think they've been amazing. And I think other companies should really just take notice about what they're doing.
What they do is they simplify the technology. And that's what we do. And I think next to games, that's what they should do with the hardware. And together you can bring it in harmony, and it's only going to get better. So I totally agree.
Nice little round table discussion there at the beginning of the show. We're getting deep before we've even started, guys.
Surprise.
It's only going to go downhill from here. I'm sorry if you're a listener or a watcher, but we've peaked already. Okay, so next up, this man puts the persistent in the persistence. He's never going to give you up, and he's never going to let you down. It's VR streamer Zimtalk5. How you doing, man? You all right?
Nice taste of Astley there. I like it. Appreciate it. Hats off to you, Mike. Hello, everybody. This week I did do the persistence, and lo and behold, that happens to be at least half of my highlight of the week. Persistence, for those of you who don't know, is a game that started off on PSVR. It's now available on for PC VR players, and I played it on my Rift S. And sum it up, I'll say it's a space version of Monstrum. It's like it's a horror game. It's procedural, and you get hunted in such an uncomfortable way as well. Like, I don't think I've felt that feeling. You know, when you set a game down that you've played, like a horror game, proper horror game, that's like gotten to your core a little bit, and you're like, I don't want to go back to that. But then there's something itching in you that says, like, I know I'm gonna have to play that again sometime. That's where I left with the persistence. Like, it's good because it's got rogue. I didn't know it had roguelite elements to it, but like you're unlocking stuff as you're going and dying. But oh my god, like some of those in the first couple of hours of gameplay, like it is not a friendly game. There are a lot of like nasty, dark jump scare stuff that happens, but also, and this doesn't happen in many games, and that's why I relate it to Monstrum, you get hunted. Like, there are things after you that you know are more powerful than you or are faster than you or whatever, and it just makes you feel like a powerless little shrew, a little mouse that's just like darting between dark halls. So yeah, good luck. I know, Mike, you said you might do that soon, so I look forward to seeing you play it.
I played it, actually.
Oh, did you?
I did. I
good.
did play it. I took some time to play it this week, just because I know we talked about it on the show last week, and it did pique my interest. I wasn't that enamored by it. I only played for maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. I did felt... I thought you might like this one. I kind of got a feeling that you would like this one, because this is kind of your jam, right? You know, with Monstrum, Dread Halls, Alien Isolation. I thought you would dig it, but personally, for me, it felt very dated.
The control. You're gonna pick out the controls, because like the control scheme, the fact that you got two choices, your hands are either stuck to your view or you unlock them and they're still kind of there, and the HUD's really in your way a lot of the time. So yeah, I'm with you there. I wouldn't call it a buy. It's not a
I definitely wouldn't say it's a buy. Like, you need to use an Xbox controller, and I think, you know, if you're going to use an Xbox controller in a game like this, just go and buy Alien Isolation, because, you know, the alien in that is just so well done, hiding in lockers, and, you know, it also taking a reading from your microphone, so if you breathe loud or you scream, it's going to find you. You know, those mechanics, I think, work so much better in Alien Isolation over this game. So I appreciate what the devs have done, and I think if they'd have put more effort in with the motion controls and kind of bring it up to speed, I think it would have been a game that I would probably really enjoy. But I just don't think that they're doing that. I don't think that's on their roadmap. I remember reading somewhere. So I think it's a shame with the persistence. It probably was great back in the day, because it's probably like 2 years old now for the PSVR. But now I just think it's a bit outdated.
It is, like, graphically, I would say even that you see it a little bit long in the tooth now in 2020. But not just the control scheme is probably the number one thing for me that I irked at. But as you say, there's some things that other horror games do, like the mic pickup. If they did the mic pickup as well, I think, it would be a brown pants moment for me, because that game is pretty scary. The things I really liked about the game are like the weapons and stuff, like the things that you can get are really different, like item to item. So I really see and roguelite as a construct, for me, that's a fishhook that I will happily digest again and again. So I think I'm definitely going back, because games like Monstrum, it's more like, okay, you succeed, you get off the boat or whatever, and that's it. There's no gamification really. It's just your survival and you're being hunted. So it's more core. But yeah, Persistence was one. I did dive into another horror game as well, an old favorite of yours, Mike, Face Your Fears 2. Because they had done that update, remember, to make it a little bit more like Face Your Fears 1. And I'd never played the 5 or 6 different segments that they had. So I went and did that. And there's one with rats. I didn't even know, like, halfway through these, I didn't realize there was interaction, because the first one, of course, you're just kind of sitting there and things are happening to you and it's scary. But I didn't know that, for instance, these, like, evil rats, like, jumping at my face, that were causing. I was like, oh, I can rip them off and I can throw them, and then I'm fighting the rats, and then I'm climbing out of a grave, and I'm fighting a live tentacle in the water. They're all really good. If you liked the first Face Your Fears and you didn't really like Face Your Fears 2 when it launched, go back and play it, because those 5 are nasty. I think the only one that felt a little repetitious, or whatever Rowdy's favorite term is, was the spiders in the warehouse, because you would have seen that play in the first. But they all made me shriek. I mean, I'm a little girl with pigtails at this stage. They all made me shriek.
It's like, it's weird though, like, you know, if we talk about the horror genre right now, and especially last year and this year, it's like you don't really see many titles get into that, you know, vibe as Face Your Fears is doing. Most of the horror VR titles I see coming out on Steam, for example, are like these nicely Unreal Engine rendered dark places with some cheap ass jump scares. But the way they do it in Face Your Fears, they have really thought about what the experience is like for someone, how they think. And I feel like if that gets more explored by developers and they take some time to really put that on paper, you can make some really good horror experiences, because we're still talking about freaking Alien Isolation. How long has it been since this came out? And this was just a demo by Sega that they made, you know, and the VR support is getting still embraced, and it will stay, you know, one of the most cool horror games out there. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where the heck is new stuff? Where the heck is like the
The thing that Turtle Rock did amazingly with Face Your Fears, the original one, was that they used audio in such a smart way that something would trigger a noise and nothing would happen until you looked in the direction that noise came from, and then it would trigger the event that would, like, a spider would jump at your face, which was like freaking terrifying. So that's what they did amazingly well, and I think, you know, a reboot of the original on the Quest now would still do well, even though it doesn't really need motion controls. I think they should do that.
That's really interesting. Yeah, but I wonder if you, and I think we'll talk about this later when I do releases, because there's a game like this. If you make that hop from a 3DOF platform to a 6DOF platform, that's kind of tough territory, because the expectation is a little bit like, give me something in the 6DOF domain, give me something more. So it requires it can't just be a straight port. If it is, it feels a little bit like a cash-in, which then it kind of is, even though it took you dev time to obviously adopt it and bring it over. But I do wonder, like, that Face Your Fears model, like Nathan's saying, really solid. And if you're looking for fear, like this year, this week I was looking at all these like horror films and stuff, and if anyone's looking for a good horror film, Midsummer is a daunting horror film. That is a fucking, it is a, oh my god, that is a,
I've not heard of that.
That is, I gave it 5 out of 5. It is nasty.
Okay,
right?
I might have to watch that.
And it's also
tonight.
beautiful at the same time. But yeah, like the horror thing, it's finally hooked me again. I took like a year's break. I'm back. I'm back into horror, baby.
Break.
Yeah, I am.
He's
I
back
needed
from
it.
retirement.
Oh, I fucking needed it, dude.
But I think a game that I am excited about is maybe Ape VR. I feel like that could really be something new and something refreshing.
Isn't that coming? Isn't it? It's meant to be coming out. Yeah,
it is coming. It is coming. Yeah.
No, it is coming. But we, of course, we have seen other titles do horror really well too, but they were not specifically survival horror games. Like, for example, Half-Life is a great example of how they can scare you. Yeah. But I, like, as you said, I think that what Persistence is doing, what Face Your Fears is doing, like that you know, that survival that you have and you can't defend yourself, that's something that with motion controllers can be really cool, can be really fun, you know, shutting the doors, getting chased. It can be so I would love to see more in that sense from that, because we're talking about really well, no offense, ancient stuff.
The other game that the Persistence reminded me of that I really would love to see in VR is Dead Space. You know, like those Dead Space games were so, well, the first two were very good. The third one was a bit meh. But the first two games were like stand out, and it gave me that kind of vibe, you know, stuck on an abandoned ship. So something like that would really, I'd love to see in the future.
Also a great example of a horror game that is one of my personal favorites is Edge of Nowhere. And that is like a first meets third person title. Awesome, you know.
Insomniac games,
that was quality. That was one of the first like proper cinematic third person games back in the Chronos days.
Scary.
Yeah.
Oh,
Solid recommendations there. We're like, having a little go back in time session. I love it. So if you're wondering where Rowdy is this week, sadly he can't join us. He slipped and tragically fell in an industrial vat of delicious Canadian maple syrup and is currently eating his way out of it. So he won't be able to join us this week, but might be back with us next week. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he gets his way out. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Mike from Virtual Reality Oasis. But before we get into what I played this week and my highlight, let's see what the chat have been up to and what games they've been playing.
Yes. So we have a few people who have been playing some games. We have Mighty Quinn, who dove into Phantom Covert-Ups. Mike, you love this stuff. So I mean, I'm not sure if you finished it yet, but it's a great game, especially because of the Mr. Snake himself being in there.
Yes,
right?
David Hayter. Yeah.
And then we have he was a guest too, by the way.
He was.
If you haven't seen that yet, then go back.
Check it
because
out.
It's an amazing interview.
That's a good game, actually. I like what they did on Quest with it. I just was going to say that. I think it's a pretty reasonable port of what it is on Rift. The coolest part though is just having the ore without like sitting in a chair with no arms or something, or sitting on the ground. Like that feeling is really good. Brings me back to the National Geographic experience, which is also good.
And I like that they added like challenge maps to add some replayability to it, which unlocks like cheat codes and stuff. So you can have like small mode, you can have infinite ammo, you can have some other unlocks I won't spoil. But they got some really cool unlocks in there that really push you to continue playing the game after you've completed the single player experience.
Someone said that they were like, someone said, is it GoldenEye, where you have to unlock the. Is that how it works? Is it an unlockable thing? Or?
Yeah, so it's based on like S rank. If you get S rank, then you unlock cheat modes, and if you get A rank, you unlock a weapon. If you get B, then you just progress, something like that. It's a really smart tiered system that they implemented in that game, which is really good. Yeah.
Is there also a cheat that unlocks lags, so you can just walk out of the map and get chased by these?
So let me spoil one for you because this is a fun one. So there's one where you can unlock, I don't know what it's called, it's something like power mode with your weapon. So basically it makes your gun super powerful, and then you can have infinite ammo and then point it behind you and then use it almost as a motor for your kayak. So you just fire it behind you and it just launches you through the map.
Oh, that's fun.
So that's really fun. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Sneak peek at one of the cheats there.
So anyways, Biggs has been playing a dungeon crawler called Gates of Nowhere. Then we have G-Space, who jumped into No Man's Sky. That one also never gets old. I think in like 5 years, we still talk about this game. Just like Alien Isolation in a way, like,
it's been 84 years.
This is still the best game, even that, we still use these motion controllers and, and these headsets with just, well, there you go. And then we have Duck Dive, who played Doom VR. I saw that the guy, how is he called again? From who's really into Half-Life and Valve and stuff. He said something like that.
Tyler McVicker.
Yeah, he said something like that he didn't like it, and he's going to make a video about it. So I'm very curious what this man thinks of Doom VR. Again,
you mean
also
Doom VFR? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that one also is very old, so we'll see. We'll see what that brings. But Duck Dive also played Saints and Sinners and Halo 2, the co-op. And last but not least, we have Hussein, who has been checking out the Museum of Other Realities and Everest VR. Now, who made Everest VR? Can anyone guess?
No, I can't remember.
Because they made another game that we spoke about last week.
Yes.
Soulfire.
Soulfire?
Soulfire. So
Soulfire. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they made the procedurally generated title called
In Death?
Exactly.
Nice.
Can you imagine if they blended In Death and Everest together?
That
sounds like an awesome survival game. Yeah.
Talk about survival games. Here you go. We finally got a plan.
Yeah. There you go.
God.
So my highlight this week was a game called Tower Tag. And this is a competitive online multiplayer shooter for PC VR at the moment. It's coming later to Quest, but we don't have a specific date or sort of time yet when this is going to happen on Quest, but it's only available on PC VR right now. I played this with Gamertag VR and Nathy earlier on this week. And the interesting thing about this game is that it actually started off as a game exclusively designed for VR arcades. And then last month, the developers, who are called VR Nerds, released the game in early access on Steam. and I'd probably imagine this is due to like the current situation with VR arcades being closed. So they sort of thought, well, we put the game available to consumers. Now, the cool thing about this game is that you only need one controller to play it. And this acts as your blaster and also your leash to jump between towers, which you can jump between using a kind of teleportation mechanic by using a kind of whip motion to whip it with a leash.
It's almost like Wonder Woman's...
like whip. And then you pull yourself towards the tower, and it works really well as a teleportation mechanic. So it's, you don't get motion sick. It's very, very easy to access for newcomers, put it that way. But although it's very easy to pick up, it's one of those games that's kind of difficult to master, and it uses your play space around a tower in the center that you can use for cover. So you move around the play space around this center tower, and you're blasting enemies on the other side of the map. You play sort of 4v4 in online matches. You got like deathmatch, elimination, and goal tower, which is like capture the flag. And if you don't have enough players in a lobby to play with you, then the slots get filled up with bots. So that's pretty good, So if you don't have full lobbies, you can always play like with a full team, which is nice. But to take the experience even further, the VR nerds sent over a 3D printed gun accessory. So let me show you this.
Jeez.
This is pretty badass. So this, which I'm showing on camera now, is like a 3D printed gun, which you slot your Oculus touch controller into. And the STL like 3D print files are available for free on Thingiverse if you want to print one out yourself. But basically, this blaster is like 1-to-1 scale with the blaster in game. So when you use it, it feels very nice because it looks and feels as the blaster does in the game world. You know what I mean?
Interesting, yeah.
So that's a really nice little accessory, although it doesn't have any haptic feedback, which is a bit of a shame.
So is it an advantage, or is it more just cosmetic fun? And
I would say cosmetic fun more than an advantage. Yeah, absolutely.
Looks cool though. It's kind of sad though, because like, especially if you're playing on your own, you don't get the advantage. But I feel like if you were like party playing with people in the room with you, like it would look pretty awesome if they were watching on the screen than watching in the room with the gun.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what they were using in the arcades. And because it was designed for arcades, they've also got support for B-Haptic's haptic vest. Okay. So I was playing the game with that in combination with the haptic vest. So I was feeling the incoming shots. So it really felt like an arcade experience and kind of reminded me of the good old days of going to like Laser Quest with your buddies. Obviously playing with Nathy and Gamertag was a lot of fun as well, with the banter between us, playing with the developers. So that was really sort of like my highlight of the week. Kind of gave me that kind of nostalgic vibe of going out and playing with friends, playing Laser Quest.
You know what I thought? What stuck with me was that when we played, you also had some subscribers of yours joining us from your channel, and it was like I was on the team with one of your subscribers, and it's funny that he said. And this is something I never thought of. He said like, he's like, yeah, I might not win from Mike because he has a haptic suit. So, and this is what we spoke about last week too with treadmills and stuff. People have the idea that if someone has a haptic suit, that they are necessarily better, or that you can't win from them anymore. That they're like almost, they've
got an advantage.
Yeah, exactly. But just. Let me just bring it to you straight away. Of course, your reaction time might be a little faster from time to time, but I mean, I was playing without the gun stuck. I was playing without the haptic suit, and I was doing as well as the rest. But you get my point, right? I feel in the VR scene now, people start to think that, oh, I don't have that stuff, so then I'm just not so worthy anymore, and I'm kind of concerned
it's often
about
the opposite.
that idea.
It's often the opposite, actually, because it's not always the opposite. I'll tell you why. So I would say that you're slowed. For instance, if you've got an aim controller or something like that, you like a PSVR aim controller, I think your ability to aim like a stock, right? That's a place where you get an advantage. Haptic vest or pretty much any of the tactile rumble kit will put you at a disadvantage, probably because you'll feel the rumble, your brain's going to be working on that, and it can slow you down. The only place where I think rumble haptics improve you is driving, because you can feel the road and the traction, you know the limit of how far you can push the throttle. But pretty much everywhere else, for haptic vests anyway, that's not an advantage. It's just, it gives you immersion, and it takes a little bit probably from...
Yeah, it's more immersive. I think that's what it comes down to. But I feel like that a lot of, because this guy was pretty young, so I feel like these younger players, they have the feeling that
It
It's
levels
almost
you up.
like back in the days when I was in school, like, oh, you don't have those, marbles, or you don't have those playing cards, then
Yeah.
that's cool. And I feel like in the VR community, this is now getting a thing where it's like, oh, but I don't have the haptic suit. So I just told him, I was like, dude, like, it's nice and it's more immersive, but that's it. And but he was like totally like, he was really like, oh, Mike is gonna destroy me because Mike is wearing the suit now.
I would say as well, like, it does add to the immersion and the feeling, but it doesn't make you a better player, absolutely not. And to a certain degree, because it's so hot here, it was actually a disadvantage because I was sweating buckets wearing that vest, but it was a really cool experience. Feeling the bullets is really cool. So that was kind of my highlight of the week.
It's good to keep that conversation going, because same with treadmills, we need to like be honest about stuff and show what it really does, because people have not tried this stuff. They just see you wearing it, and it always looks totally badass when you have gun stocks, when you have haptic suits, treadmills, etc. From the outside, it looks all amazing. But when you try it, that's a different story. And
especially if you have anything that's like a scary game, holy shit! I mean, the immersion is totally worth it. Don't get me wrong; like, you're not getting an advantage on a game level. You're getting an advantage in an experiential level. Like, the fear you're going to feel in a combat situation is going to be more if you're feeling that on your chest, because there's bits of your brain. The fundamental parts of your brain that basically say, like, run, hide, don't die. So if you want to experience that, sure.
I would say that the B-haptics integration with Half-Life Alyx is like the best experience I've had wearing that vest so far.
Oh yeah,
that was like amazing. Like, recharging your health and feeling it flow through your whole vest and head and arms. Like, that was amazing. That was really great, and I'm really glad that they've started to implement it into some of the most popular games now. But that was originally talking about Tower Tag. Like Nathy said, I've been playing a lot with my Discord. If you want to play with us sometime, I've got a bunch of keys. Come and join our Discord and we can play sometime in the server. So if you fancy it. Yeah. But like I said, it's coming to Quest in the future. I think it will do really well on Quest.
It should come to Quest, because so you invited me and I was like, I'm just going to play up front. I couldn't really find anyone. I feel like the player base from just a week in was like, fastly like going down, because as we said, multiplayer games in the PC VR scene are hard to keep alive. But yes, if they make it more cross-platform and they add a Quest, but also add maybe PlayStation to it, this could really work, because the game itself is super simple. It's not like you need a crazy machine to run that stuff. So it'd be nice to have all these people come together and have a community that is, because I mean, you can always say like, oh yeah, we can play with bots, but come on, man. Like, so I played against someone who's like, oh, I have a bot now. I'm like, your bot is not doing anything. It's like bots are just too stupid to be even called a team member.
Just on that same topic, and before we move into news, there's an interesting question in chat, which I'm interpreting as, should I get VR for productivity reasons? So in other words, I think we talked about this before, where I think it was Rowdy and I were talking about, like, if you're working, even now, right, working remotely or whatever, you got a couple of desktop monitors, you're a day trader, whatever it is, whatever your job is, you're an animator, is it better to be working through a VR headset? I think for certain fields, yes, but again, there was that article recently, right, with the guy who was claiming kind of eye trouble and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think it's one of those, it's really very much at a balance point right now. I wouldn't say it's an obvious slam dunk of like, yes, that's something. If you're going to work on a project for 2 hours and do a kind of a virtual desktop job, then I can see value, but I wouldn't work that way myself. I wouldn't.
Yeah, personally, I would say, like, for gaming, it's great right now. Yeah. For productivity, it's just not ready yet. It's just not ready. But we're going to be talking more about that later on, so stick around, because we're going to be talking about potential lightweight glasses later on in the show. So that's our sort of highlights of the week this week. And now let's get into the news. And the first thing I want to talk about this week is the Valve Index, because it's celebrating its 1-year anniversary. I can't believe it's been out for a year already. Like, where is the time? Where's the time gone? It's been a year. So I thought we'd start with a bit of a history lesson, and then we can talk about our thoughts on the headset itself. So we first got some sort of solid evidence of Valve making a VR headset around back November sort of 2018. we were super hyped about it because images were leaked online showing headsets in production, and it sparked loads of conversation on this show and speculation around the headset's features.
It was more like in the end we were more excited for Half-Life, honestly. It's like, oh, they're making a headset?
Exactly.
Half-Life.
And exactly, that's what we were saying. We were like, is Half-Life coming now? And of course, this was all just guesswork at that time. We didn't know that was actually the truth, which turned out to be amazing for everyone. But the thing is, the bit that stands out in my mind was when we were all at PAX East in Boston, about 5 months after the initial leak, and around sort of March time, 2019. We were with a bunch of friends, like, we were all there all there together in a car, traveling to like a Facebook party or something like that. Tyriel Wood was there, Cass and Cherry were there. And we were there to check out the Oculus Quest and the Rift S. And then this announcement happened by Valve of the Index. And it was like, oh my God, like all this amazing VR stuff is happening all at the same time.
It's like we're at the wrong party. That's like.
Well, for me, it was just like there's like VR overdose. Like we've just tried the Rift S and the Quest, which were great. And then we got the Valve Index coming as well. It really felt like a real high point.
But especially because of that troll that Valve pulled. It was like a prank they pulled where they just showed like the slider.
The IPD slider,
the slider,
we only got excited over freaking slider. That was all we could really see.
And that was all due because like the Rift S didn't have an IPD adjustment slider, and that was the big sort of controversy around that headset at the time.
Yeah.
So then the pre-orders opened a couple of months later, around the sort of 1st of May, and we all Nathan and I desperately were sitting there pressing the F5 button on the Steam page, trying to get one as soon as they dropped, and we were lucky enough to secure like an early order, right?
I did the same. I just canceled my order. I had an order that first 5 seconds when the page opened.
Yeah, and like they sold out, I think, within an hour or so. And like you said, Zim cancelled his pre-order, but Nathan and I were pretty lucky to get some the first.
I think we were in the first queue
wave
at the end as well, because we both bought like the. Did you also buy the full package?
The full set,
Lighthouses, Valve Index, and the controllers.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And they arrived around the sort of the 1st of July, so almost a month, the same, this week, a year ago. And since then, it's been a headset that I use regularly alongside the Rift S and the Quest as kind of like my regular go-to headsets. I don't know about you, Nathan.
Yeah, no. On PC, it's definitely my daily driver, mainly because of the speakers and also the microphone. I use it for recording all the time. It's amazing. And then we're not even talking about the display yet, but that on itself is fantastic. And the hands-free experience with the controllers, that's just super nice. It's really nice.
Yeah. And although it was a pretty successful launch, it didn't go completely smoothly because we had some issues with the controllers around release.
Still.
Back then, although I think it's been resolved now if you buy new controllers, if you've still got the old ones.
I can confirm that because I got 2 new controllers later on, and those just clicked fine and worked as they should work.
Yeah, so the issue was that you couldn't push the thumbstick down in all directions on both of the controllers, which was a really weird, annoying thing to happen, especially when you spend so much money.
You could still push it, but you didn't get the feedback of it clicking, and that is just weird.
Especially when you spend so much money, absolutely.
Yeah, especially if you spend like all of your kidneys on that.
Yeah, exactly. The other couple of things that I didn't like about the headset was they use like Fresnel lenses, which do show God rays in like contrasting scenes, mainly noticeable in like loading scenes and like title screens. But when you're in game, you don't really notice it at all. And the other thing that really annoyed me was that they cancelled the production of their virtual link connector because they had an adapter initially on the website for sale. Whereas if you had like an NVIDIA RTX card, you have like a virtual link port on it. You could just plug that in and it would power the headset and have HDMI, power, and USB all in one cable, which would have been super nice. But sadly, they dropped that accessory just prior to the launch. And the other thing, obviously, I don't like is the price. The price is super, super high. It's a significant amount of money to be dropping on a VR headset. It's like $1,000 for the complete set.
Never spent so much money.
But like the modular nature of it, I think was very smart, and it allowed their initial foray with the HTC Vive to be converted into a Valve Index setup. So I think that was really smart, and I've seen a lot of people take those baby steps. It's almost like having an installment plan on a VR headset. You can go to the controllers first, you can go to the headset first, you can do either. You don't need the 2.0 base stations. So actually, although the cost is quite high, and it's the only reason I canceled, it was just like, I can't be buying 3 headsets at once. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I had a Vive already, and I was happy enough with it. So, I think getting the headset and the controllers like separates, is nice. And for anyone who bought the headset straight at the gates and then waited past the click point, I guess they got it right on the money.
I think for me, the two things that I did not like about my purchase a couple of months in was, first of all, Steam VR did not really get updated that much. It didn't get an overhaul. It wasn't like next level. That's something I just expected for some reason after spending so much money. Of course, now they have, added more and more, but it goes slow, It felt more like you bought like an early adopter headset.
Definitely.
Not something that necessarily was just consumer, and we're now gonna, bless you with all these updates, like you, for example, see with the Quest. And the other thing was that I was hoping, and this was just, again, like my personal expectations, that Valve was going to spend more money on developers. I was like, they're just going to ask just what Oculus kind of did, or Facebook, like, oh, hey, super hot, you want to make another game? Let's just publish it on Steam this time only, or, and do that kind of stuff. Just find all these developers, also make some more stuff, but they didn't. And when you saw like the hand tracking, the finger tracking in a way, like the only thing that came out was like they had the Moondust demo that, as far as I know, you can't play anymore on Steam, or it's very well hidden.
It's hidden, yeah.
And then you have, of course, what Cloudhead did. Very exciting. After I played that, I was like, wow, this is awesome. I still think it's great. But then for example, Mike and I jumped into Arizona Sunshine, all these old games that got the support, but it didn't really add anything new to it. Well, in the Portal experience, we got to see how you can add new things to gameplay. And that's something we haven't really seen. Of course, Half-Life Alyx is a good example, but in general, what you can do in Half-Life Alyx is like you can squeeze a grenade and you can squeeze a can and you can push a button with your finger. But I wanted to see more where, what we saw with the Portal experience, where I could, do the handshaking thing and do rock, paper, scissors, like more interaction, more feeling like the world around you is alive. So for me, that was the thing that I was like, wow, I spent so much money and we were waiting and waiting for Half-Life to drop. And now after Half-Life, of course, Half-Life was a big one. I mean, that, made me super happy. And I think like maybe like half of the money, I already forgot about that. But there's still a big chunk that I spend on this, that I invested in, that I want back in playtime. And I want Valve to, like, I understand that Valve is not going to poop out games every year, but at least show that you want to invest more into other developers. But for Valve, it's just like, we make a headset and that's it. And we figured that out later. And Valve is a company who kind of reflects that too. So it's fine. But it's still, you know what I mean? That's something I'm missing. It's just something.
I totally agree. That we want more titles. And of course, another Valve game, like we said, that killer app, like a Left 4 Dead, I would kill for that game. I think that would be the game that would really accelerate VRs.
I'm telling you right now.
They must.
They're working on it right now.
But talking about the headset itself, the things I love it for, again, are the comfort, which Nathan mentioned.
The comfort is amazing.
I used this headset for a 9-hour straight live stream of Half-Life Alyx when that dropped, and it was absolutely fine using that for that long.
The
dial, eye relief dial. Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah.
The audio, of course, is like the best of any headset available on the market right now, and the microphone as well. And I would certainly say that, if you have a budget for, a Valve Index, that $1,000 price range, the Index is the one to go for over the Pimax or Vive Pro or Cosmos Elite. Maybe the HP Reverb G2 will be competition for it, but we'll have to wait and see when that actually launches. But
it's
the high-end headset of choice, I would say, for enthusiast level gamers.
I think what Valve made in the end was a great headset that will, that you will be able to use for a couple of years. Talk about the Frunk. I think the Frunk was something that they could have just kind of, I don't know. I mean, there are some cool things like what you made or what you bought but still, you know what I mean? It's like...
it's useless space. It should have just been a heat dissipation chamber.
I was like, wow, we're getting into the modular scene, but in the end, if we look at what has been made, that's great.
FReality Podcast.
So what I'm showing now is like one of the Frunk mods. I think this is called a mini Dex. It's like
LED.
LED little display, and it's just scrolling like subscribe to the FReality podcast on the front of the headset, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, we have also seen vans that you can put in there, but in the end, I had so many times where just the front fell off because I hit it again with my controller. I was like, why is this even a thing? And also because it's like plastic, it like you can see your fingers on it. It's something that in the end, first I thought like, wow, this is great. This is also what I pay for. But now, later down the road, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I think the next step for Valve would be if they go wireless and they get away from the base stations. I know that's hard because the whole ecosystem from Steam VR has been so deeply integrated into it that it will be hard to get away from that and get more into, for example, inside-out tracking. But that would be interesting to see Valve doing that. And I would be open for an Oculus Quest competitor from Valve with a custom Steam VR store on there with only VR games, and they just separate that kind of from what they had on PC.
The G2 is probably the Reverb G2 from HP is probably going to be the closest thing to that because it's designed with Valve on board as a Steam VR headset, but it's a Windows mixed reality headset. So I think that'll be really interesting to see when that comes. But talking about Frunk accessories, obviously I'm showing the LED Mini Dex Frunk accessory there, but I've also just received the Chill Dex, which is a Kickstarter campaign, which is a tiny little USB fan.
You backed it too.
I backed it too. I love Kickstarter campaigns. I haven't actually tried it yet, but I'll try it this week and I'll talk about it on the show maybe next week.
It looks a little bit like it came straight out of Portal. I don't know why, because of the
whether it'll cool the headset down in this heat, well, that'll be the ultimate test. So we shall soon see.
No, it's interesting.
Just in terms
it's interesting.
Yeah, I was just going to give the two things that I thought about the headset. Number one, the only thing that I thought was inexcusable was the God rays that you talked about on the lenses. The lens reflections on a headset that was expected to kind of smash everything at the time, I thought was inexcusable. I mean, I'd rather put a DK2 headset on and go with that lens, or even the original Vive compared to the spherical reflections I was getting in those lenses. But one thing I really appreciated, aside from the sound, which takes the cake, was the interface, the facial interface. It's the only headset with a facial interface that I think doesn't require an add-on out of the box. Because I think every other headset that I've played with out of the box doesn't have a material that feels cool, feels good against your face, and deals well with sweat as well. So I think hats off to Valve because they really turned around. Again, when they did the HTC Vive, that foam was atrocious. And I think they learned a lot from that, and they built it straight into the Index. I just wish that the form factor and all the build quality, really good. I wish the front wasn't there. And I kind of wish that the lens reflections weren't there. If that wasn't the case, it would be something that I would even consider selling my Rift S to upgrade to.
What the Valve Index has showed is that Valve is very patient, just waits out the market, sees what the rest is doing. Of course, they were partly involved with the Vive, and then in the end, they decided to make something themselves. And if you look at what you get for that price, it's fantastic. And like as you said, it fits very well, and it's super comfy. It's just that. Yeah, like when I go into Steam VR, it's still the same as like when I played VR stuff in 2016 on my Vive, and I just want something else. And that's not, for example, what Oculus Home does on Rift S. I also think that that's also not the way to go. Maybe what Quest has is the easiest I've seen so far. I just want something more, simple, more fast. Maybe that's also something that people are still experimenting with. But I feel like looking at 2016, it's not like we have really fast forwarded in any way with that.
I think the problem is, particularly like I think you experienced this as well, Nathie, is when after Half-Life Alyx dropped and you experienced that game, you kind of looked at everything else. Because the bar had been raised so high by Valve with this game, you looked at everything else and you were like, I don't want to play this stuff anymore. Do you know what I mean?
And that's what I'm saying. Like, they should have kept the pace there and be like, hey, Half-Life Alyx, here we freaking go. Let's push it. And here are the other indie games that are also amazing that you should play, and that didn't happen. So
it's like experiencing a Five Guys burger and then being like resorted to eat McDonald's for the rest of your life.
It's like they overdone themselves.
Yeah, I don't want this anymore. I want the good stuff. So that's kind of how I felt. But things are changing now. You know, we're getting some releases on the horizon. You know, like Squadrons. I'm very hyped about. Yes. But you know, I do think we just need more games, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show. But certainly, you know, the Valve Index. You know, it's been a year now. I think it's had some really great updates in terms of UI, and Steam made it a lot easier for newcomers. Yeah. And, you know, although it comes with a hefty price tag, it's a great headset and definitely one that I would recommend buying. But just right now, they're also difficult to get hold of, just like the
Very
Quest.
Difficult.
Yeah. I think it's a couple of months minimum wait if you want to order one now.
It's one of the most difficult headsets to get right now, actually. Yeah. So after here, what do you say? Who do you thank for this great product?
Of course, Lord Gaben, you know, for all his hard work and dedication. You know, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So that is the Valve Index, celebrating its 1 year little birthday, which we're very grateful for. It's a great headset. Yeah. So now let's talk about some exciting news this week from PlayStation, and that is that Dreams is coming to PSVR. Now, if you have no idea what Dreams is, then let me tell you all about it, because I didn't really know much about it up until this point. So Dreams is a highly ambitious project developed by Media Molecule, the same team that made Little Big Planet, which you probably know, on the PlayStation. And Dreams actually released on PS4 this year in February as a flat pancake game. Now, the interesting thing about Dreams is that it's not really a game as such. I think just calling it a game is a bit of a disservice, actually, because it's more of a platform where players can sort of use the tools provided by the game and the tutorials to actually build their own games, paintings, experiences, animations, sculptures, and even produce their own films within Dreams. Like, it really is very open, and the limitation of the platform is really just down to your own imagination. Now, once you've created your sort of masterpiece using this amazing tool, you can then publish it online in a sort of a place called Dreamverse, and this is where other people can experience your creation. And then you can create items, like not just experiences, but items, like assets. And it almost becomes an asset store as well. So for example, if you're a creator and you want to build a game, for example, and you want a car in that game, you can go to Dreamverse, look for cars, and see what cars the community have made, and then use that asset in your own creation.
It's like Sketchfab.
Yeah, it's amazing. But obviously, Sketchfab, you have to pay for your assets that you use in your game, whereas this is all free. So it's like free assets, which is incredible, really, when you think about it.
Is that a good and a bad thing, though? Like, if you put time into creating an asset that then's going to be available...
But you know that going into it, that your work is going to be made publicly available for... Well, it's your choice to publish it, to be honest. Like,
Sure.
But it would show in your profile, I think, that a lot of people have, used it, and that will boost up your reputation. So I think that's more than just copying it, and you're never going to hear of it.
So the reason I said double-edged sword, right, is because it's... you could actually incentivize artists to use that platform, then create something, and then you create a market for it. And that might even amplify the volume around the game. That's why I was saying it, because
but it will always stay within Dreams. So you can't like, even if you made a cool game, it's not like you can I still get what you mean, but you can't resell.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood what Mike was saying about the export.
You still have the concept out there for other developers to maybe copy that and make it into a set, but it's always in Dreams that
and it's the whole thing is built around community, the sense of building and sharing your creations with others. That's the kind of like the heart of this whole thing. So that's what it's all about. No monetary value in it. It's just helping the community grow and make something amazing and unleash that inner creativity. And some of the creativity we've seen from the community around this app is like phenomenal, like amazing level of detail in like some people have made RPGs, horror experiences, first person shooters, like you name it, it's been made in Dreams. And that is just amazing, especially for something that's only been out like 4 or 5 months now. But one of the things that the community has really asked for since its release, because it was always announced that it was going to get PSVR support, is when this PR support is going to happen. And thankfully we don't have to wait too much longer now, as Dreams will be getting PSVR support in a free update on the 22nd of July. Now, this is going to be awesome because we could see anything from like Beat Saber clones to full first-person shooters, interactive storytelling, or someone's even made a rake experience, a rake simulator in VR already. So basically, you just walk and stand on a rake, and then it hits you in the head. It's like super stupid. But if you look at the Dreams PSVR trailer, it's got some really sort of like, imaginative scenarios being played out.
I just saw breakfast, and that's what got my eye. I saw breakfast there.
Yeah.
So Dreams on itself is a timed exclusive, or
I don't think it'll ever come to any other platform, to be honest.
so it's not a timed thing.
I don't think so.
Is Sony involved with?
Yeah, I would say so, because Media Molecule, they're highly ingrained with Sony. If you look at like Little Big Planet, has never come to any other platform.
And that's been like 10 years now. Little Big Planet. I remember when that landed. That was like such a cool universe, and they really have. I'm glad, because they needed some new IP to stem to. And I remember the noise around Dreams, which was it this year, or was it Christmas that it launched?
No, it launched in February, but there was a lot of buzz around Christmas, certainly around this game.
Yeah, I remember. That's why. But this kind of platform is I love the creativity to it. I think you're right. People will tend to go the clone path. Closest thing we've got at the moment, I would say, is Rec Room in terms of model.
If that's the closest we got, then we have a long way to go, because like Dreams is such a strong title on PlayStation. It's adding so much more value to their VR library, to any VR library, because as you said, if Rec Room is the standard right now of like what Dreams is, then I mean,
certainly like that, like being able to create your own spaces and games for other people to play. And people are saying in the chat, they're correcting us, that apparently Sony does own Media Molecule, so it's not going to come to any other platform. And like personally, I'm not interested in building anything myself. I suck at building stuff, so I'm not interested in that. But I am super interested in seeing what the community build and share online, because when you share something on the Dreamverse, it gets ranked and scaled by like trending, new, most upvoted. So you don't get just like obviously like the low quality stuff that people put together and just throw on the store. You're going to get some really high quality stuff. Yeah, the
recognition is so much fun. Like you can make something. It's like YouTube too, right? Like you make a video, you put some work into it, and people like it, and they and it's the same with this. Like people are going to play your stuff, and you can get. Like you can just do it for fun, or maybe you have the ambition to become a developer.
Exactly.
I love when these universes open up, because it lends itself to someone latching onto that and then riding that wave. So you could be a budding content creator who's like, I want to go and create stuff. And they see this and they're like, that really excites me. I want to share that with other people. And you could be the world's, number one expert. Not just like I'm sure there are already people who are doing that on Half-Life Alyx mods. It's the same thing here. You could literally sit at the precipice of all the content that's coming through Dreams and just do a channel based on that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you say, this could pave the way for a load of future VR developers using this platform to create games, and I love that. And I can't wait to see people that use like Tilt Brush, like Rosie, for example, who's like a Tilt Brush artist, to see what stuff that she can do in this, because instead of just building an art piece, you can actually build worlds that people can play as a game. And I think that's really exciting, especially those real creative types, when you unleash them on a system like this.
You just brought up a really interesting point. We have this little black hole gravity force that's happening between art VR platforms, where already you were moving from a canvas or a drawing pad into VR, and that changed, that made you pivot and change as an artist, right? And you came in and you're like, okay, now I've got this volumetric area that I can create in, just like a sculptor would. But now you might even suck some of those artists over to becoming a game designer through something like this, because the art side is there and it's being fed, and then you're going to pull a couple over. So I love when you get someone who's like really, they know their craft and they're really honed on that, and they get pulled over to some other avenue, and then people who are on that platform are really surprised by, wow, you're amazing. I never heard about you before, but you've come into this little universe and you're creating these fantastic things.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is as well, like when you look at the design process, particularly using the for like DualShock controller. It looks very rudimentary when you think about actually going in VR and 3D sculpting and then, manipulating these objects with the Move controllers. It looks way faster. So it's going to be really interesting to see what impact this has on the industry, on the community, the Dream community.
I was on the production of like more Move controllers from 10 years ago.
Well, the thing is as well, like you can also apparently produce a level for VR players without actually having a VR headset. So if you are that creative type, you can produce something for the VR community without actually having a headset, which is interesting. But yeah, if you're interested in checking out Dreams and brushing up on your world building skills prior to the PSVR update, which I said is coming on the 22nd of July, it's available on the PlayStation Store. It's quite pricey, $39.99 in US dollars or $34.99 in British pounds.
But that means endless possibilities.
But yeah, quick question. So is this, if I'm buying this, like you, Mike, these sandbox games or constructor games and engines, I generally go into them and I don't create a lot. I like play what's there. Is it like for example, Gadgeteer had a kind of a backbone to it. It had a story and then you could sandbox. Is this completely sandbox and you're entirely reliant on community, or is there some stuff in Dreams that's, from Marble themselves?
Yeah, so there's stuff in there that is built by the developers themselves. There's like a full single-player story experience, actually, with plenty of different mini-games that was built entirely in Dreams from Media Molecule, which is quite a polished experience from what I've seen.
Good. I was hoping that was the answer, because too many times developers will create an engine and then there's nothing to play. And it's like they're just completely reliant on community.
Yeah, what we don't know is if that's going to be playable fully in VR when that releases, or what content they're going to be producing for the VR update. Sure. We don't know that exactly right now, but I think it is super interesting. And like you say, it's endless content, that could carry on the PSVR for a long time to come, without any proper game releases, which is really exciting.
Very cool.
So that is Dreams, getting a free update for PSVR on 22nd of July. Whilst we're on the subject of PSVR, let's talk about Iron Man VR. Because at this point, I've only played the demo. I thought it was super fun. Got me hyped for playing the full game. And I think Zim really enjoyed it too, right?
How could you only play the demo, Mike? That's just reprehensible.
Have you played the full game yet?
No.
Okay. So I think Nathy's the only person that's got significant hands-on with the game so far, because I think you got early access to the game prior to its release. So have you finished it yet, Nathy?
No. I'm at chapter 7, and the game ends at chapter, I think, 12 or 13. So that kind of gives you an idea. But I can tell you some chapters that I played are like 10 minutes, and it's like, oh, that was the chapter. Okay. I'm like, sure, if that's one chapter, then so it varies a lot. But yes, I'm pretty far into it. I actually started a series just like I did with Half-Life, because I just enjoy these games way too much, man. And it's like I want to share it with others. And I'm mainly playing it because of the story. I just enjoy those, that humor and that. Just all those just like when you watch a Marvel movie. I think that's why I'm diving so deep into it, because if we look at the gameplay is amazing, but you can definitely notice that the PlayStation VR hardware is quite dated and making you wish that you could play it on a different platform. But it's still so exciting to play that you would recommend people to buy a PlayStation VR. Because that's how good it is. And it shows once again that if you have invested into PlayStation, then this is one of those titles that no one else can play, and it's great. So yeah, what I think about it, it's like the what you guys have played is pretty much kind of like the same of what you are going to experience later down the road. You will unlock new weapons. So we're talking about like smart missiles or smart bombs. You can upgrade your suit in all kinds of ways. So you can, for example, you can make your suit faster. You can change the skin of your armor. That's just cosmetic. You can also have like shields that will regenerate your armor faster, etc., etc. So I think in the sense of like upgrading your suit, there is a lot to do, and I think that's something that people want if they play this game, right? You want to make your personal suit, and I think they did very well with that. You get research points to do that, so it's like you buy those upgrades. And getting those research points is super easy. So after every level you played, you get you get research points based on how good you played. So if you, for example, destroyed a lot of enemies with different combos, you will get more research points. The max is always 5, and every upgrade is also 5 points. So every time you get 5, you can do an upgrade. And when I spoke to Parole, one of the guys who's really into PSVR, he said that it's super easy to get those points. It's not like they make it hard in any way. At the end, you have unlocked everything you wanted. So difficulty-wise, it's not super challenging, but it's still difficult to play. So it's fun in a good way, because you have 3 difficulties. And the hardest one, you could die, but most of the time it doesn't happen because you constantly fly. And if you feel one with the suit, you can just make it happen because, as I said, it's a front-facing experience, but you can just turn around and play in any direction you want, because they optimized it very well to make you still aim at certain enemies. I don't know how they did that. It feels like magic, but it works super well. Although,
so are you saying that because the experience that I got in the demo was that it was the first game ever on PSVR to convince me to feel like I was in a 360 headset? So that holds throughout the game then?
Yeah. I have not, like, even if you sometimes your arm goes nuts. And it, like, have you ever seen it where your arm stretches out into
late at night,
the void and it doesn't know where to go anymore? That happens. Or sometimes your arm like twitching a bit, but never ever had I had problems with the aim itself. So I can still hit my enemies.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
There's intelligence, I think, baked in there software wise that like helps you, like smart aiming or a little bit of it feels like they were smoothing the experience just a little bit, but it wasn't the annoyance when a game assists you too much and you're firing over here and it's still hitting the enemy in front of you. Like I didn't find it was that level, which was good. It was kind of
I think they made the system way more intelligent than it really is, and I wish they would have done that with other games. Although this one just they could have never enforced you to play this front-facing, because the enemies are everywhere, and you're Iron Man. Iron Man also doesn't, only looks forward when he, sits in his suit. But yes, you're right. They have done a great job on that, and something they also build in is a lot of safety options, because, I slammed the wall, but what's even more dangerous is people when they stand, because it's also a standing experience. You can't really move because you're standing in this circle. In my opinion, the circle is a bit small. Like you lean a little bit forward your head and it's like beep beep bop boop beep boop. So it could be a bit wider. But what this circle does, it gives you like a safe space with like a grid around you, just like you have on the Quest and on all the headsets. And what else they do is you have like not blinders, but this like vignette mode where it kind of keeps you safe. But all of that comfort stuff doesn't take away that this is quite intense. This is not for just the people that just got into VR that don't really have their VR lags yet, even that it is just a standing experience. What they also did is they built in this system that if you spin like 3 times, it gives you a warning that your cable might be
that is so smart. They had that in the demo. They had that in the demo as well. Like that is so smart. Like there's very few games where I've seen that logic taken, where it was like you spin and then it's telling you to untangle yourself. Like why don't we have that at platform level on Oculus Home, for instance, or for Steam VR? Why?
But also like build into the HUD in a way where you would almost think that's a part of Iron Man's HUD. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's not like immersion breaking. So that's great. Although first I was like, I played all these missions. I was like, I just turn around, man, like this warning, whatever. Like I didn't even like watch it. But then after a while, you see that this cable, and this is like the PlayStation VR cable is like a really sturdy one, right? Like
Chunko.
That's not. But the small one that in between, like where you turn it on and the volume, if you have the old PlayStation VR, that part, the tiny cable, that tangles up like crazy. So after a while, I was completely tangled up. But that was after like, I don't know, 3-4 hours of me playing that game. So that's why it's there. You also have snap turn, you have smooth turn if you want to use that. Again, like I'm not into that. I just want to physically do it. And as I said, it works fine. If we talk about the HUD, some of the things in the HUD are like you like the field of view of the PlayStation VR is not so big, so it's almost like you really need to try hard sometimes to see the upper information. And there's also certain information that I did not necessarily need it. Like it gives you, for example, the point system. So if you make a combo with enemies, it shows like how much points you get and stuff. It's something that when I watched my videos back, I was like, oh, so that's what it also shows. But there are a few things in there that is kind of unnecessary and doesn't really feel like I'm always looking at the middle, where I'm flying, but it's not like I'm constantly like, my weapons are reloaded, or I can use.
Are you saying that it's like it's bulking out the HUD in a way that's unnecessary, and it would have been better if they had just freed that space up, or are you saying that it's just the positioning is the problem?
Well, it's not like, I think the HUD should be there because you're playing as Iron Man. It's not annoying anyway. It fits the style of the gameplay. I think it really adds something to that. But it's just that if you do put something in there, then put some information in there that just pops, and like you look at it. Like, as I said before, sometimes like your weapons need to reload. So technically you would have to look at the bottom of your screen to see if you can already use those weapons again. But I never did. Yeah. It's like after a while, like, oh, okay, after 10 seconds, I can use it again. And you don't look at it. So it's kind of like a filler. It doesn't matter, but I wish they just fill it up with things that, well, I don't know, maybe they should have made it more clear. I feel like it's very hard to see that information in a way, like, because the gameplay is super action-packed. It's so fast. It's freaking insane. Yep. Now, I do have a downside to this game, and that is you all remember Defector, right? So it has a little bit of a Defector vibe to it, because if you're between cutscenes, the cutscenes are all teleport based because again, standing experience, it's very comfortable in that sense. So you just move from one point to the other, and that's how it works. But there are moments where and this happened later on, it's almost feeling like they got more and more ambitious along the way, where first like, okay, let's just take it easy, and then it gets more extreme, because there's a moment where you just get blown away and your whole body moves, so you physically also do that. So then your head is like floating, you see this body, you're like okay, then you're sitting on the floor, you're looking at your hands, you're still standing, so that's kind of weird. But then there is this guy who then wants to give you a hand to help you, get up again. But it then enforces you to look that way. So it kind of turns you a little bit, just like in Defector. And then this hand goes up, but then it constantly dips to black between these different parts. Almost like they wanted to create a smooth scene, but they just know it didn't work if the player would do it themselves. So it just goes from 5 seconds screen to 5 second screen, and again. And then it kind of beep, beep, beep. It just kind of snap turns you in a way it wants you to go. It doesn't happen that much, but it did happen a few times. And another thing that was super weird is like, okay, so imagine, so Nick Fury is in the game. We have seen him in the trailer. He looks great, but the models look awesome. It looks really, really good. Like you wouldn't think you're still playing on a PlayStation 4, but he's standing there and he has a phone in his hands and he's like, okay, here's a phone, go research it. So you grab the phone from Nick, right? But then you want to give Nick something. But then suddenly they just have this animated hand in there that does it for you. So I'm like, or you let someone do everything, or
not at all. You can't do one. You can't do both.
So your hand is like, what the heck? It's almost like this fake hand comes out of your tummy, and it's like, hey,
that's weird.
That's my hand.
Weird.
So that's a little strange. Again, didn't happen that much, but it just shows that I don't know what they tried to do there. They're trying to kind of.
There's a conflict in the design there somewhere. They are, like you say, you either choose one path or the other. You don't do both.
Yeah. So overall, to wrap this part up, great game. Like again, PlayStation VR, man. Like the fact that I'm just grabbing all of my Move controllers again and my headset, even that the setup is not so good compared to the Quest and the Valve Index, etc. But it's still, this game is so freaking exciting, so good. The story is amazing. It's so action-packed that you just are willing to do that. And that just shows that this game is in its core is just fantastic. You get
We've
what
got
I mean?
a question. Yeah, from Nimsoni. And he says, is the HUD used for motion sickness prevention, do you think? Like the way that the HUD is displayed in the
If you
headset?
turn off all the comfort settings, no. But still, it does help.
Okay.
But it's not the same as being in a cockpit. You know,
Right.
it's still you are the. So it's not the same as driving a car or sitting in a submarine or something.
Right.
I didn't notice any like particularly in the demo. There's no point field effect, which is what they use in Lone Echo, which is like this really light like gray dot system, which means that your head can keep track of the environment moving around you without causing that odd discomfort. And I always attributed the HUD in really more as just an immersive piece. But it does help in certain games, like cockpit games. Certainly, the more surround you have, the more grip your brain has. It's like having little talon hooks into the environment. And so the more surrounded you are, actually, the better off your tummy is oftentimes.
But one more thing that I almost forgot to say is that I do feel like every mission I played so far, it really goes from one mission and then some cutscenes, next mission, some cutscenes, next mission. That's kind of how it constantly goes. And it does feel like every mission is pretty much an arena you're playing in. Of course, again, that's because of the PlayStation 4 not having enough power to make it more open world. So it always feels like, after a while you fly to a certain point, it's like you have to go back. So for me, it always, even that they kind of try to give you the illusion you're in a big city, I can just see with my eyes that it's just this arena I'm in, and I need to stay in there to play the game. That's something that is a shame. And what I also notice is that they sometimes replace certain elements and they just put a different code over it. So let's say one time you have to save some people in a building, and you have to hack the energy system in there. And what you then do is like you pull out some capsules, you grab some kind of like battery, and then you save the people. That's kind of what it comes down to. But then later on, you have another mission. Again, the environment looks amazing, but it's an arena, and you do the same thing, but this time it's a bomb, and it's like the same thing again. It's just a different name paint over it, and you start to kind of notice that. And I wish it was more like, oh, is there also some more puzzles to it? But it's definitely, the focus is on the combat all the time. It's not really a puzzling game.
It's not,
No.
So would you say that it lives up to the hype or not so much?
It does live up to the hype, and there's so much interaction to it. And as I said, the comedy just does it for me. It's a story that keeps me hooked, and the gameplay is like a passenger next to it. So no, totally.
Awesome. Well, the thing is, like, I was looking into some of the reviews, because obviously I haven't played the full game yet, and it's really interesting to see, because there's a bit of a divide between like the mainstream media, of course, and
I was already scared of that even before it came. I was like, this is gonna be
And of course, because like Iron Man's huge IP, so it's kind of course it's going to get the interest of these like mainstream media tech websites as well. But I was reading reviews from The Verge and Engadget, which were pretty negative. And even Ars Technica went so far as to say that you should completely avoid the game, which is pretty amazing, really. Wow. And most of the complaints were about the control scheme, repetitive loading screens, and complaints about the limitations of the PSVR as well. But then you see like IGN, Upload, Road to VR that went on to say, that it's a great game and that, it's one of VR's greats, and it's so weird. Like, I wonder if this is like just the difference between game journalists who have had significant experience with VR or not. Do you know what I mean? Like, that will depend whether the review is going to be either a good one or a bad one. Because say if you're new to VR and like you said, you're jumping into this game, maybe it's a bit too intense, or, they're not used to VR and they're having these frustrations of learning how to use the Move controllers or whatever, then that causes a negative impact on the review. And I just wonder if, like, from their point of view, that VR is just massive inconvenience for them, especially if they're not using it, and their director of the publication is saying, right, here's the Office PSVR, you need to take this home and review Iron Man VR, and they're just looking at this like, holy crap, this is going to be a massive ball ache. I have to set this thing up. I can't sit on my sofa and kick back with a bag of Doritos while I review this game. I actually have to stand up and put some effort in. And this is why there's such a massive disparity in VR reviews.
Yeah, but it's as you said, it's a very personal thing. First of all,
Yeah,
to play
I
a
get
VR
that.
game, then you have
Yeah.
journalists who are part of a website who usually gets more clicks when it's negative. Then you have other
Yeah.
websites who are more driving on the positive side of things. I do agree about the loading screens. It takes ages and kind of takes you out of the experience. But yeah, as you said, like, and also the thing is, some of them are already biased before they even try it. They had bad experiences with VR,
Yes.
and others had positive experience. So then suddenly it's amazing because it's the same like Move controllers, dude. If I play with those Move controllers after like 2-3 months after not using them, yeah, of course it's going to be complicated, but at least keep that in mind when you write your review. Like if I like some of these journalists, they're like in the VR department, right? And they always play with the Valve Index, play with Quest, and then they have the Move controls, total different like control scheme.
Yeah.
And then they kind of bash on the controls. I'm like, dude, I had to play like the Iron Man game for a couple hours to get back into it. And then you can't judge it that way. So I feel like it's very hard. Of course, IGN is like always giving high numbers. I mean, Last of Us, they also gave it like a 10 out of 10. So I mean, whatever.
By the way, I wouldn't personally say it's a 10 out of 10, and I finished it this week.
No, but everyone knows
saying.
that. But everyone knows that. But something that I did notice, and that's amazing, is that I got the press kit from Camouflage. Press kit is basically for journalists, for YouTubers, and etc. And it contains screenshots, trailers, maybe a summary of what the game is all about, maybe some cheats, or where it's like, okay, this is what you should keep in mind when you play this in this mission. But they made a very cool guide with pictures of Tony Stark and Friday, his assistants, showing how you should be setting up your VR headset, where the camera should be, because PlayStation VR, if they're like tracking sucks, I'm like, well, maybe you didn't set it up right. So they made like a little PDF, super cute, like with these little pictures, and it also had like a checklist, like please play these and these missions first before you wrap up your review. And I think that's something
that's smart. Yeah.
But then, as you said, even with
some people just don't bother. Yeah, because I saw Ben Lang, Road to VR. He's very critical, but I think he's also very fair, and he does some really great reviews. And he said something like, there was a steep learning curve to Iron Man VR, but once I had cracked it and put the effort into practice, I actually felt like a superhero. And I think that sums it up. Yeah. Whereas these tech websites, they're just not willing to put that much time and effort into practicing and getting good at the game. They just think it's a massive inconvenience, and they're just like, well, this isn't very good.
It's because of VR. Like VR on itself, as we know, is still not very big. With Last of Us, you can't pull that trick, Mike. You can't just play it halfway and not know how. Like you have your controller upside down. You're like, I don't know. It doesn't. You can't pull that trick.
Yeah.
But with VR, for some reason, because it's still not the mainstream is on top.
You can blame the tech. Yeah.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But we're also in like a hungry spot. I mean, I don't think we're as hungry this year as we have been in past years. But to look at it from the other side of the fence, we will take something that's even mediocre to good and look at it with rosy eyes because we were needing, right? If you remember, like, what was it, 2018, a year where it was like shovelware, like all you were getting was wave shooters and then room escape games, and it's like, come on, can we get something, please? Once you start getting those kernels, like what you said with Alex, once you've had that taste of that meal, you get anything that kind of hints you in that direction, and I kind of feel like it pushes us a little bit biasing that way. Again, just playing devil's advocate here, but
of course,
there was an aspect of that too.
No, like I think, like as I said with the Valve Index, you're waiting for so long, and then you appreciate a game arriving even more on a personal level. I think it's very hard. Like I honestly don't write like reviews on games. I just play them and I show them like they are. But I do think it's very challenging to write a review just based on facts, and especially with VR, sometimes if you're a consumer yourself too, because like I'm kind of a consumer with Iron Man, honestly. Like if I owned a headset, this is something I would buy. But then looking from the industry side, from the business side, it's also so I totally get what you're saying, and that will always be a part, and that can be a positive. Like in my case, I'm positive about because I have been waiting for this game for so long. Then you have other people who don't understand what VR is like, and they make it negative. You need to be somewhere in the middle, but that's super hard.
I loved your point though about the controllers, because that is so happening. That is so happening. PSVR is a ball ache. I think quoting Mike there. To set up, especially the old school system. It is not a fun process to set up.
But still, when it's set up and you're playing it, you forget about it.
When it's your daily system and you use it every day and it's your VR system, it's not a problem. It's not a problem at all.
Yeah, but even like I don't use the PlayStation VR on a daily basis. Of course, I also make videos about it, so that also plays a role. But then still, when I have it set up and I have the camera and everything and it works, I'm like, wow, amazing. Great game. Yeah. So I still think if you get to experience this game, you're like, okay, the system doesn't matter. I just get it set up because it is a ball ache, but it's not as much as a ball ache when you have played it. So
Fair. And I think as well, to a certain degree, they could argue that we're invested in VR too much and we're too biased, and we see like Zim says things with rose-tinted glasses, but that's why there's a lot of publications out there, and I'd read a lot of different reviews before you make up your mind.
It's funny that PSVR Parole, those guys are usually they feel that even in the VR community, because of the system not being super next level compared to the rest, that it's bad. But every time it proves once again that that's not the case. Same with Dreams, right? We haven't played it yet, but that's gonna be super awesome. And like I just respect every system, and it's funny that they're always super surprised when I'm positive about PlayStation VR going back to it, because you rarely see media outlets covering PlayStation VR.
That's true.
It's the biggest platform and has one of the best games.
It's true. So that is Iron Man VR, Nathan's hands-on experience. Lives up to the hype. Go check it out. I've installed it this morning. I'm going to check it out this week so I can talk about it maybe next week on the show.
Don't punch your fist against the wall, and don't get tangled up in your cable. That's all I'm saying.
Thanks for the advice.
Don't die.
So we're running a bit late, but so I'll dive through the last bit of news, and that is that the Oculus Quest has got another update this week, which serves as update 18, adding and refining the headset's features even further than before. So now, along with improvements to the universal menu and multi-browser support, Oculus have added predictive text to the virtual reality keyboard, meaning that web browsing in the headset is much faster and easier, which is a little quality of life update that makes things easier. Because this is available on most smartphones. The most popular suggested words get popped up after typing in a few letters, which appear at the top of the keyboard, and then you just tap on them and it just makes the experience faster. Along with that, we also got some nice colors for the Guardian system, which is cool, I guess. If you have a deep hatred for the color blue, you can now change it to purple or yellow, which is a nice little touch. We also got some new notifications and social updates, so now you can share in VR content or ask a friend to join you in VR using Facebook Messenger, which is kind of interesting if you've linked your Facebook account and everything else to it. So making it more social, but still, like we've talked about with the Oculus Go, it's nowhere near as good as Oculus Room's integration with that social sort of multiplayer integration, which I hope to see in Horizon in the future.
Also, I don't know if this is the right timing to be integrating Facebook related things, but maybe that's just my take.
It was inevitable. From the very beginning, we knew this was going to happen, and now we're seeing it. But one of the most important and interesting features, I think, of this update, and I don't know if you guys have seen this, is voice commands. So if you have the latest update, you can enable a shortcut for voice commands by double tapping the Oculus home button, and basically like a little voice assistant will pop up, and you can ask that voice assistant, what can I say? And they'll give you a list of commands, and you can say you can ask what the time is. You can say take a photo during a game, and it'll take a little screenshot for you. You can also say start casting to cast your gameplay to a Chromecast, for example, so other people can see what you're playing. And you can even launch apps and turn off the headset this way, which I think is pretty neat, actually.
That's like English for now, I guess, or American.
Yeah, so US English only right now, so it doesn't support other languages, but I assume
with funny Dutch accents.
Well, that's something you're going to have to test out yourself and let us know next week on the show. But I was kind of just wanted to ask you guys quickly, do you guys use voice assistants in other sort of smart devices, like Amazon Echoes or any other sort of Siri or anything like that in your homes, like for smart features or?
Used to. I even used to use it to get ready for my show. I used to use Voice Attack, which is an app that a lot of Elite Dangerous players use. And I find that very helpful. It can be very time-saving. I've ripped my Google Home Mini out of the wall because I said I don't want to have this thing listening to me anymore, which is kind of silly because your phone is listening to you all the time anyway. I like them. I just think I'm like, I'll just wait another 5-10 years until, this improves. Because I just wasn't finding, aside from getting it to play music from across the room, I wasn't really using it that much.
That's the number one thing I use it for, is to play the radio. And I've also got it controlling my lights, actually. So when I'm in bed, I'm super, super lazy person. So anything that can save me like 5 seconds time, I'm like well invested in it.
Yeah, the home automation.
So I just lie there in bed and just say, turn the bedroom lights off, it turns the lights off. I love that.
The home automation stuff is really awesome. When I was at Kaz and Cherry's place, like they have it so sweet. Their whole house, under sofa lighting, VR room. Like they come home, it puts music on, lighting shows up in their cabinets.
I love that.
They've got a crystal glass skull with like LED lights behind it. It was amazing. Yeah. And so after that, I had to get one for myself. And I ended up, as I said, eventually boxing it again. But I don't know. Nathan, do you use any of that stuff?
So I use it for my TV when I watch YouTube. So I just speak into it. It usually works fine, but if you start to speak out some complicated stuff, it's like it doesn't, and then it gives me all these random things. I also, when I went blind for a while, with my eye, I was talking to Siri, playing things and asking what time it was. Very useful. And sometimes also when I want to Google something on my phone, I just think it's too long, so I just speak into it and then it just looks it up for me. And my doorbell that I have, I also speak with when someone is standing in front of the door, if that counts.
That's nice. Yeah.
But what I wonder though is that's I think that's one of the main problems. Same with the remote, that I then talk. It looks so stupid. You're talking to your remote. Ask people that like 10 years ago, like I'm talking to my remote too. It's like karaoke. But the thing is, like the Quest microphone is very bad. Okay, it just doesn't sound good at all. So I wonder if they have some smart tricks to make that, because I do feel that comes into play when you then speak.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, but
because
certainly
also pops. When you say it really pops into that microphone. So
I wonder how good that experience is then. From what I've seen so far, it looks pretty solid and works pretty well. And I think you can even use it to search for stuff within Google as well, which is kind of interesting. But what we've seen here is, again, the poor old Rift S left in the dark, not getting this update, no Guardian updates,
you're still not
hand-tracking.
giving up on your headset.
Still not giving up on the old Rift S. I do think it's a good headset, but it's just such a shame that it's been abandoned by Oculus pretty much. But obviously, these regular updates and these big pushes in terms of integrating new tech in the headset is a clear push for what is going to be the next Oculus headset, and all these features will be integrated from day one. So, newcomers are going to have this amazing experience with these wealth of features, which I think is good. But I just really hope that whatever this next headset is better than what we currently get with the Rift S in terms of a PC VR experience. And it isn't just a tacked on PC VR experience like the Quest, which I feel like it is, because, when I want to play PC VR content, particularly from the Oculus ecosystem, I don't reach for my Quest, I reach for my Rift S because it's my most comfortable Oculus headset for playing PC VR content. So I just hope whatever they make, if it is a hybrid, which I think it is at this point, that it is as good as a PC VR headset as it is as a standalone device. That's my only wish right now.
So we just have to test it with me and also Rowdy to see if it understands. But I think that's very important, because I had so many systems that I just like, I'm just speaking, and then you need to do it in this, this British or American way, where I'm like, that's not how I speak.
I would love to hear you say, try a British accent.
No, but seriously, sometimes it doesn't work that well. Maybe at Oculus Connect, we're gonna see a roadmap on the big screen. It's like Rift S. Well, there's.
I think there'll just be a little gravestone there alongside the guns.
Gravestone.
I reckon, the Quest is launching forward into the future.
Like you see the coffin dance, they hired them to come on stage to dance with the.
That's what they need. That's
a great farewell, by the way.
The spooky skeletons guy just does the send off for them. I would do that. Maybe Astley there as well. No, but the features that you mentioned, the parody feature for the autocomplete is I think, the most exciting for me. The other thing that I find interesting is, and I think this released a little while back, where you have the option to use your mobile as the keyboard to enter a text prompt.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And that's really, really handy when you have the ability to, like, say, like casting, obviously already it's looking to your phone over your network, and you can actually say, instead of typing in the address, let my phone be the keyboard. And then that's very helpful in VR, because honestly, pointing, one letter at a time is a pain in the ass. So I'm really glad that they got the autocomplete, because that's it's just like a minimum parity feature now. But I think you're right. I think they're trying to iron out those parity things so that the next platform becomes this, like, ready to go. Oh my God. Yeah.
It's ready to go.
So that new consumers coming don't notice downgrade.
Exactly.
I'm curious what kind of policy will come with this, because same with the Google Minis and the Amazon stuff. Like it's always active to be ready to listen to.
Well, this one you have, from what I've seen so far, you have to double click to enable it to pop up to start listening. So it's not listening all the time, although there might be a functionality to use that. I don't know. I didn't research it that much. I haven't tried it yet because the update just literally dropped. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I know a lot of people probably will be concerned out there, people listening in on them, and we're very private people. I get it. But certainly for me, I just don't care. I just open all these things up and let everyone listen to what I'm doing, because I don't think anyone cares at this point.
Facebook.
I don't mind. Google and Facebook can know what I'm doing. I don't care.
The thing is, it's already. This is
I get it.
That's exactly what I was saying. Like, already, your governments, especially U.S. and UK, I don't know about the European governments, but like, they've been listening to your phone for the last 10 years already, longer.
Yeah, it's probably highly likely. Yeah,
you are being parsed through systems.
Especially Mike. I mean, Mike is
especially me. Yeah.
It was
what he's up to in his attic, like they listen to him all the time. Behind his paintings, microphones under his desk. It's everywhere.
They want to know my opinions on, like, Rick and Morty and the other things I do in my spare time, and cursing The Last of Us 2 and all those other things that I do. So that's the super important stuff that they want to know from me. Absolutely. But yeah, I think it is interesting, and another solid update from Oculus in terms of the Quest. It is a shame about the poor old Rift S, but like I said, this is a clear roadmap for them to improve the Quest for a Quest Pro or Quest S or Quest 2, whatever it might be, but it's clear that is what it's going to be at this point. So hopefully we don't have too much longer to wait, and we can just say goodbye to the Rift S and just use one headset moving forward, because I'm kind of bored of this whole Rift S versus Quest discussion now.
Just give us one platform. I don't want to buy, is this cross-play?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So let's now get into a hot topic, because we are running late, and let's clear this up. And this is where you're going to have to super concentrate, and where I'm going to have to super concentrate, because this is complicated stuff. And I'm not going to try and pretend I know how all this tech works, but I did do a considerable amount of research before the show to try and explain it as best as I possibly can. So bear with me on this one. So this is all about these super small, thin form factor VR glasses that were kind of teased online this week. Publications like Upload and Road to VR wrote articles about them. And it's basically from Facebook Reality Labs. So it's from the research and development department of Facebook, and could potentially lead to an Oculus product in the future. But let's talk about what we know right now with current generation VR headsets, because they're quite big and bulky, and although some, like the Valve Index, are very comfortable to wear for long periods of time, it's not as lightweight or as comfortable as wearing just a pair of glasses. You certainly know when you're wearing a VR headset, whereas, where if you wear glasses, they tend to sort of like disappear and you forget that you're wearing them after a period of time. So this week, Facebook's Reality Labs division released a 14-page research paper on holographic optics for thin and lightweight virtual reality glasses. Now, these aren't AR glasses, these are VR glasses. So this is a long-term research and development project, so don't expect this tech to be available anytime soon, but it is interesting to get an insight into what's going on behind the scenes nevertheless. So Facebook Reality Labs see a vision of the future where people want to use VR for productivity and social interactivity. And like we had the comment earlier on, like, do we feel like VR is ready for productivity now? And our answer was pretty much no. But Facebook Reality Labs want that answer to be yes in the future, of course. And what they need to push beyond what's available now on the market is a push forward in terms of tech to achieve this kind of wider consumer adoption. And they say that this will require smaller and a lighter form factor which can exceed the performance of conventional displays near to the limit of human visual acuity. So they're saying we want it smaller, lighter, and even better optics in terms of what we can achieve right now. So according to the paper, a big part of moving forward and reducing the size and weight of these devices is changing the optics, as that is a big integral part of it, and that's why some of these headsets are so big and bulky. And the paper states, in this work, we propose combining polarization-based optical folding and holographic optics to gain the performance benefits of both, while systematically working through the unique challenges of holography. In particular, we augment these technologies with laser illumination, directional backlighting, and color multiplexing to achieve the field of view and resolution expected of modern VR headsets, while reducing the thickness to sub-10 millimeter to enable sunglasses-like form factors. This is absolutely crazy, crazy stuff. So what they're saying here is that instead of a traditional lens like we have in every consumer VR headset on the market right now that focuses on the display inside the headset, what they're proposing is using a thin holographic film which acts as the lens. So instead of having a glass lens or a plastic lens that's quite thick and a distance away from the display to work properly and to get that image in clarity and in focus by the user, they're saying that they can reduce that thick lens into like a paper-thin holographic lens. So this is like the holographic optic. It basically bends light like a lens, but is thin and almost like a transparent sticker. It's that thin and is placed underneath over the display. So with traditional refractive lenses that we have in current gen VR headsets, there needs to be a considerable amount of space between the lens and the display for the lens to focus correctly, right? But with a holographic lens, with polarization-based optical folding, light can be controlled to move between both backward and forward within the lens, so this empty space can be traversed multiple times, collapsing that space into a fraction of the original volume. So basically, it sounds super, super complicated, but if you think about it in this sense, the distance between the lens and the display right now is like, fairly big, maybe a few inches. And what they're saying is by folding, optical folding, they can bounce the light to traverse the similar amount of space, but it's folded, so it's doing it in a smaller volume of space. And then you're reducing essentially the distance between the lens and the display down to like 5 millimeters instead of having that huge distance for the lenses to actually work and display the image correctly in your to your eyes essentially. So you've got this like holographic lens, which is completely mind-blowing when you just think about it. And behind this holographic lens is a 2.1 inch 1600 by 1600 resolution LCD panel. And this results in the whole optic stack being less than 10 millimeters thick and weighing just 18 grams, which could be worn comfortably just like a pair of glasses, which is completely insane when you think about it. The only thing that to take into account when we talk about this kind of technology, because it is revolutionary and it is amazing that we can strip it down to this bare minimum weight and size, but this is just the optics alone. We're not taking into account tracking, the laser illumination, which is required for this headset, the processing power. It's just the displays and optics at this point. You need a freaking laser to power this thing right now. That's how crazy it is. And obviously, in the future, the idea is that the processing will likely be done off the glasses to keep the form factor so small, and would likely be done in something like a belt puck, like we've seen with the Magic Leap AR glasses, for example. It's got these glasses form factor, but it's got a processing puck which you clip to your belt. So we'll probably see something like that, or even long-term vision into the future, your mobile phone will be capable of processing all the power that's needed to power one of these headsets. Because everyone's got a mobile phone.
I was like maybe even wirelessly, but that's.
It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky doing all this wirelessly. But yeah, long term, of course, future. Then yes,
no cable is like
that's
where you want to
and
go.
this is when you start talking about Apple getting involved. This is where you think these technologies are eventually going to collide, and they have no choice but to get into this technology because to get involved, then this is what would be required. So it's kind of interesting. Of course, right now these are all just prototype glasses, but they do actually work. This is the crazy thing. They are working prototypes, but the limitation right now is that they can only display a single color, which is green. But the paper suggests, green.
That's Matrix stuff.
Matrix,
right?
yeah.
Oh yeah, and who's our favorite color? screen here in the FReality Podcast.
That's also true.
Exactly. But what they're saying is in this paper that with more engineering, they can actually open it up to a wider range of colors, even exceeding what's currently available with traditional displays that we know today, like the LCD and the OLED panels that we use in current gen headsets. Now, of course, we know it's going to be some time until we get our hands on this tech, as this is just research right now. But what impresses me the most about this paper is the fact that we're seeing all this innovation happen so quickly. It's only been a few years, if you think about it, since, the Oculus DK1 days. And if you think about how fast we're accelerating through this tech, and to even get to a point where now this is just like a working prototype, it's incredibly impressive. And this also sort of comes back to Facebook as well, because without them and without the huge financial backing and the risk that they're taking on this technology, I don't think we would be advancing this quickly. So whether you love or hate Facebook, you can't deny that what they're doing for the VR industry is going to be revolutionary and pave the way for the future of these headsets moving forward. It's like when we see Michael Abrash talk about the future tech in, his talks at Oculus Connect, for example, and you see like what he's talking about photogrammetry and varifocal lenses. We're clearly on a path right now that there's no turning back at this point. We've already invested way too much time and energy to then just say, VR is dead. Okay, let's all pack up and just forget about this, and let's revisit this in a few years' time when the technology evolves, because we're already on this path and the future of VR and AR is inevitable at this point. Now, as we've seen with the current mainstream media, who are very dismissive of this tech right now, it's clear that AR and VR will change the way we work and play forever, and it's not just a question of if, it's just a question of when. And, I think this is incredibly impressive tech, and, it's just a question of not if when we see this type of tech in the future, it's just how far away is it from us right now. And, maybe it's 4 years, maybe it's 5 years until we can actually wear a pair of these glasses ourselves. But it's just incredible that we're accelerating at this incredible pace right now. And, this is what we're looking at in the future.
Yeah.
But it's good to, again, say that these are VR glasses, because you just look at them as like, oh, sunglasses. So the video we're playing now too in green, it's like, oh, that's what I could see through it. But it's like, for example, Huawei has also made, VR glasses and Nreal, etc. Nreal is, by the way, that's an AR one, so maybe I should not mention that one. But it's like, the display is just in the shape of like sunglasses or reading glasses. So it's not AR, but it's small enough to not have that bulky, for example, Quest, where it's front heavy anymore. It's just like this nice, compact pair of sunglasses.
But,
and that's kind of where you want to go with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you think about form factor, though, I mean, sunglasses, and actually when we were just kicking off chat today, someone said, Jesus, light leakage on a pair of sunglasses that are shaped like that is a problem. The way I think about it is, I mean, wouldn't you prefer kind of the elastic band, swimming goggles that were kind of bringing those panels, I suppose they would be, although tiny and using these tricks to get around the distancing, but that close, like literally just right there on your eyes, and wouldn't that be the form factor in this? And we often see it in cyberpunk, where they're talking about like future, you don't have the kind of flat sunglass, but you actually have these things that like hug your eyes. So look forward to see what that is. But I think the number one limiting factor for me would be, I know you were talking about the power source, Mike, but power source has to be the place where technology is going to hold this back, because let alone the size of like, the storage, the CPU, all that kind of stuff, and the heat dissipation needed, but actually what's going to power it. The battery technology has to be one of the main limiters.
Well, I think battery technology is something that hasn't evolved as quickly as other tech industries, and I think it's very difficult to solve that problem. But I do think, certainly with this kind of small form factor, that we'll see a push towards cloud computing. And it's something that Jason Rubin has talked about recently when talking about far visions of Oculus. Cloud computing is the future, and they've recently bought a cloud computing company, not too long ago. So it's clear that they're on that path. And when you take all that, and I've talked about it previously with Shadow, that I'm testing out in the background at the moment, using a Shadow computer, which is essentially a PC in a data farm somewhere. This one happens to be in Paris. And I'm basically using virtual desktop to wirelessly send, Half-Life Alyx to my Quest, which I'm using here in, near London. It's pretty amazing that although the latency is pretty undesirable, the tech actually works. It's just a case of improving that latency to where it's unperceivable whether you're using a local machine or a machine in a data center somewhere.
It's a very good point. It reduces also it cuts out the need for pushing power into the headset, and you're just streaming to the device on your head.
And of course, this also relies on other technologies, like 5G or whatever's next after that, Wi-Fi 6, and just to reduce the latency as much as physically possible. But these technologies are evolving, and just like VR, they're evolving very quickly. And the Ready Player One dream of just owning a display with an internet connection that's very lightweight and affordable, and all the heavy lifting is being done somewhere in the cloud, it is totally where we're heading, in the future. So it's super exciting. It's super exciting.
On the other side, like battery improvements will hopefully come, and there is a lot of research going into that, because we have electric cars now. We have, of course, mobile phones that you need to charge every 2 days. I'm sure everyone wants to use them for at least a week or so. So there is a big push to that too. But cloud computing seems to be more in sight right now than
and it's amazing. Like, I was super skeptical of cloud computing, but having actually tried it now with Shadow and the Quest, like I say, it's not perfect. Latency is definitely there, but the fact that the tech works and they're actively streamlining it for users now, to make it easier for them in the future.
Is making, right now, so that could also really help.
Even if the next Quest, whatever it might be, Quest Pro, Quest S, whatever you want to call it, has Wi-Fi 6, for example, using the Qualcomm XR2 chip or something similar, then that could unlock the possibilities of this cloud computing even further than what we're currently available now with the current hardware. So it's very exciting indeed. But of course, the thing is, I don't necessarily like talking about future stuff that much, because it frustrates me where we're at right now as well, to a certain degree. And sometimes it just feels so futuristic and sci-fi that it's unattainable. But I think, this tech is, and it's clear that they've got a working prototype. So it's very interesting indeed. By the way, if you want to read more about this tech and you're super into the nitty-gritty details, and you've got a big brain and you want to absorb all this incredible research, go and check out the full 14 pages of it, in its full juicy detail at it's research.fb.com, and that's where the paper is located if you want to check it out.
Where's this rowdy man if you need him, right? This sounded like
he needed to do this.
This sounded like a science episode. It's you doing it.
Honestly, like, it hurt my brain getting my head around this.
I can see that. It's a little swollen.
It is. Like holographic displays, like holographic lenses. It's insane. It's insane.
When they find the way to break that barrier and get to full color gamut, that's going to be impressive. Yeah. But I just, there must be so many challenges there in terms of just representing the visual spectrum.
Yeah.
In terms of the bounces that they need to make, I can't even imagine how they're going to address that problem. It seems insurmountable at this point. So
but this is why Facebook is so far ahead. They're doing all this legwork for everyone else, basically, because all this research is publicly available. Any other company could pick this up and go, oh, that's interesting, let's try and do this ourselves now. So it's kind of cool that they're open about it, to be honest. But very interesting technology indeed. That is the Facebook Reality Labs new prototype, which is a pair of VR glasses, super small and lightweight form factor, and could be the headset of the future. So there we go. Now it is time to pass over to Zim for the latest releases of this week. We've got a few interesting games, I think, to look forward to next week. So take it away, Zim. Go for it.
Is it all right if I underscore that interesting a few times? Because
sure.
That's what I've queued up. So, all right, everybody. Here's you would not have expected the word pancake to make it into the title of a VR game, would you? But apparently this one is. Pancake House. I had to highlight this. This is a PSVR game. This is not one I'm recommending you go and spend any money on. It is a zombie shooter, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the story behind this one. It's fantastic. John and Jim have a moral responsibility for a situation. They plan to blow up giant drills to block the entrance to an energy source and begin their journey to the sprawling drill control tower. Although they finally discover unknown energy, the mysterious virus, circa 2020, caused by energy, gradually turns workers into zombies and threatens the world, and I don't understand this statement, threatens the world by becoming unaffordable. So I don't even know what they're saying. This is Pancake House on PSVR. It's 30 quid, so it's not cheap. It's $36. Okay, I just don't understand. Why does this game exist? 15 stages, a variety of environmental maps, including villages, factories, and I don't know what I'm doing with my life at this stage. The game description actually lists reload bullets and select guns by using the VR controller.
Wow, this basically should just be called like, zombie shooter VR. Like this is what it reminds me of.
The description.
Very generic.
I just don't.
They accidentally put the wrong thing in there.
I don't fucking know.
But honestly, like it's kind of funny because it kind of sums up what you're gonna do in a game anyway. So it's kind of like a good description of what you're.
God.
But like,
but wait. So Pancake, it's a very serious, name we use. But now for the first time. What pancakes? Where? Like I see zombies in this trailer. It's a zombie shooter. What about the pancakes? Like I was waiting for you to talk about pancakes.
It must relate to a pancake house. Like if you go to a pancake house in the morning for breakfast, like a diner, like that would be a very American thing. So that's that's how I'm answering that question. I did dig around and look for why pancake house, but I thought it was very funny. The pancake.
God. Now I'm just hungry for pancakes. That's all this trailer has done.
Are you not hungry for unlimited energy that turns people into zombies?
Unlimited energy?
Not.
Sounds like
definitely not.
Sounds almost like 5G is based on.
Oh God, don't.
But the price.
Yeah, okay, let's not go there.
The price, anyway. Yeah, this is not helping.
Why is it so expensive?
30 quid. Jesus.
Because there are reloading mechanics in there, and you can shoot.
You can put actual bullets into the actual guy.
Not just bullets. No, actual bullets. That's like.
But this is only on Steam, right?
PlayStation VR. That's the
PlayStation
problem.
VR.
This made it past Sony QA.
That QA, yeah.
There are some. I mean, it's obviously a non-English studio because there were some really atrocious things misspelled, and it supports a whole bunch of languages, right? But my God, yeah. Anyway, Pancake House. Wow. Don't buy that game, please.
Well, this is why after Half-Life Alyx, I did not play that much games anymore.
I didn't want that one to sneak by us. Anyway.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Here's another one. Now, no, this isn't a bad one. I actually think this looks good, but it's cheap, so £5. So don't expect the world. Okay. This is Extreme Escape VR. Okay, so for $7, £5, on the 30th of June landed a roomscape escape with an action element where you're in a hot air balloon that's failing, and you're surrounded by like cinematic cloudscapes and troubling, difficult weather conditions. You've got a number of tools to help you fix the hot air balloon that you're on that's doomed. And it offers about 45 minutes of gameplay. There were actually pretty decent reviews on this one. Your balloon is leaking and you're plummeting to your death. It's one of those room escapes. It reminded me of Intercosmos, actually, which was like a Soviet-style game that was there before. But Extreme Escape, if you're into escape rooms and you're looking for something on PC VR, boom. There you go, $5, no problem.
That looks awesome, actually. I want to try that one. Yeah. The heights thing, I hate heights. So that in combination with the room escape, I'm in.
Yeah. Also, the name of like if we just go from Pancake to this, like the name is good. The trailer looks exciting. Again, like I think escape games in VR are always doing very well.
Yeah.
I think this is also, and it reminds me a bit of Elevator to the Moon. I don't know why.
Yeah, because you're going up. You're going up and up and up. Just hope you don't get Arnie in there. So like for me, that one is, I like room escapes, but I really feel I've seen a couple of things now on Steam. £5 for 45 minutes or something. That seems like a fair trade to me because it's like you're in an action film. You get to work your brain a little bit, and at the end, you kind of feel like, it was good. So if you're a dev, it doesn't have to be too crazy, actually, if you want to go and develop a VR game. So if you are going for one, a good room escape with some decent puzzles you've thought through that are interactive actually isn't a bad way to start off as a VR dev.
Especially if you're a startup, right? Like you want to still kind of garner an audience for the games you make. So if you're overselling it from the start, you're going to be doomed anyway. So this is a good approach.
Yeah, that's it. Now, who are you out there like nature? Now, we've just shown you a hot air balloon ride that might have lifted your heart rate just a little bit. Let's calm that back down with Blue Planet VR. So Blue Planet VR is quite a looker. For those of you just on the audio, sorry, you're missing a little bit. I'll explain it though. So this is a curated collection of 40 volumetric experiences of really quite powerful scenery and cultural heritage type locations worldwide. There's a number of things you can do in this. It's not strictly just looking. There is some interactivity in some of their experiences, not all of them. And actually, this had landed before on Steam and now has come to Oculus Rift. So PSVR headsets, you can go and grab this. It's £23 on the Oculus Home Store. It's $23.79 on Steam. While you pay an extra 80 cents, I don't know. That's Oculus's offering, I suppose.
Okay.
But you get a good sense of presence and open exploration in this. With these remarkable locations with a good amount of detail. There's hang gliding in it, for example. We featured that as well in the trailer that we're showing now. But generally just spectacular terrains and environments. And again, given they've gone the mile to give some interactive features, I think that's a cool thing. But these seem to be a really interesting blend of the photogrammetry execution and the art direction to have curated an experience. So you're not just sifting around and like trying to find good ones, but instead you get a bundle here of 40. And the coolest part, for those of you with Steam, there's a demo out, so you can check out 3 of the 40 for free. They unfortunately don't have that on Oculus Home. So if you only have Oculus Home and you're only a strict like Rift person, you have to go install Steam VR and get Steam up. But this thing has, again, positive reviews. It landed on the 2nd of July, so this is really just out from developer Eric Hansen. So there you go. Would you guys play this?
I'm generally not that interested in this, but I will say that these things look way more impressive in a headset than they can ever be shown on a trailer. And photogrammetry, when you see it in a headset, is very, very impressive. So if you like just soaking in the atmosphere and the vibe of these things, then yeah, go and check it out. This is going to be great.
No, I think this is awesome, especially if you love traveling and you want to discover new places just to have a look. Like usually these things are making me excited to go and see the real deal. So yeah.
Yeah, good stuff, guys. Well, that's it. I just think that like something that's this much of a looker really deserves just some airtime. Let people go out and seek something like this, because I've seen people looking, especially this time, things that they can just chillax with. And I'd tell you, Extreme Escape, not for you, but Blue Planet VR, maybe your thing.
Yeah,
maybe your thing.
Yeah.
And again, not a terrible price tag, but I do think for 24 quid or 23 quid, it's kind of steep. For something that you're probably going to do one and done. But then again, it's 40 experiences, so you probably get a couple hours out of this thing if you go and pick it up. Okay, now comes the time of the show where I get to, for those of you, again, I'd like to encourage people to watch the podcast, see something that's going to make you highly uncomfortable. Okay? I have never seen a VR game before that made me maybe this uncomfortable. Now, we all love hand tracking, right? But what about a game that features your hands but without hand tracking, and it's totally a hand interaction VR game? No hand tracking. This is weird. So in this game, you have control of your physical hands. Hands obey the laws of physics and interact with all the objects as they do in real life, i.e. collisions. But you're doing that with VR controllers. And what we're seeing on screen is some wiggly fingers that are, well, to put it bluntly, interlocked and interfacing in a way that I'm sure those index controller people wish they could do. It goes a bit beyond that. But I do wonder. So this is called Fingers Minigames. And this is the part where the game actually comes in. So with this, you do get to play around with your physical hands and solve some puzzles. You see kind of Jenga blocks and things like that that you can play with. And actually the kind of gripping experience that the hands do is pretty satisfying. And it just makes me wonder, why is this not a hand tracking game? Because it would go so well. Like the physics and everything that they've got, it just looks like, please, hand tracking now. And the game element of it is pretty simple. It's like placing blocks into a little sequence and using your hands. So that's pretty limited. But to be fair to them, the price tag is very low. This is £2, $3. And it was released 4th of July today. Happy Independence Day. Go play with your hands.
Wow.
Weird though, right, lads?
It looks very
Weird.
satisfying, and it's almost like spaghetti fingers that just know how to act.
Rusty Spoon Fingers Simulator 2020.
Rusty spoons.
Rusty spoons. Yeah, but it's a bit odd. But like Nathan said, I feel like there's a satisfaction to the way they did the hand physics in that one. I wish that had hand tracking.
But how well does this really work? Like usually the developers, same with hand tracking, they know how to, but then when you do it yourself, it's never so good. But I don't know. This looks pretty legit for some reason.
I know, yeah. It's
like
weird.
where's the hand tracking on the Valve Index? You know what I mean? Like if Oculus can pull it off with a $400 headset, like how come Valve can't do it with this like $1,000 headset? You know, this is what I want to be playing this stupid.
Yeah, you want to play this
game.
Stupid.
Yeah, you do this with your fingers.
I don't want to do it with controllers though. I want to do it with my actual hands. You know.
Yeah.
So things you can already do with your hands, you want to do in VR.
Of course.
But all the mundane stuff is fun in VR. We've proven
that for some reason that sounded very bad. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Did it? There you go. So anyway, next one up, one of my favorite studios, Resolution Games, has another title coming to Oculus Quest. If you don't know Resolution, they've done a whole bunch of different things. My favorite Go title, Narrows. They've done the Angry Birds games, both AR and VR. And they did Bait, which I think Mike's father or father-in-law.
Dad. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Rowdy's dad. Oh, it was Rowdy.
Got addicted to it, yeah.
Rowdy, where are you? I know he's looking for a place to live. It's fine. So Wonderglade is coming. And Wonderglade, some of you who had previously like a Dream headset or an Oculus Go headset might be like, hey, I recognize this. So it's actually a previous release from other headsets. It's coming on the 9th of July, as I said, from Resolution Games. It's a series of casual mini-games, 6 to be precise. And the purchasing model, which I find really interesting on the other platforms, is they give you 2 for free out of the 6, and for the other 4 you have to pay $1 each, or 80 cents in pounds. So you get 2 for free, and it's basically £4 to round out the bundle if you want to play. And there's like 6 different things you can do. There's also a pass and play mode, so you can take turns in these mini games. There's single and multiplayer, and I think that's what they mean. It's local multiplayer, and yeah, you can even, like in Pierhead Arcade, as you're playing, you actually unlock tickets that you redeem at the Wonder Wheel. Nathan, I had the exact same reaction. I was like, oh yeah. I don't know why.
I don't know why, but their logo reminds me of, like, Willy Wonka made this game for some reason. It looks fun. I think also kids will enjoy this stuff.
Yeah, but like that minigame thing hasn't really been tapped. We don't have the WarioWare of VR yet, right? We don't have the Jackbox of VR.
Loco Dojo.
Loco Dojo is the closest thing that we got. Now, to be honest, that's a really good game. I'd love to see Loco Dojo come to Quest. Come on, guys.
Well, they tried to come to Quest.
They did. They tried.
Oh, yeah, they got the no.
Yeah, and it's a shame because Brian Blessed voiced the sensei in that game, which was totally awesome.
Oh, so good, man. It was so good. So that's, look, I'm going to have one more mention before we quit here, but Pancake House, Extreme Escape, check that out if you're into room escapey stuff. Blue Planet VR, if you want something good for the eyes. Fingers mini games, you want to feel really uncomfortable on July 4th or thereafter. Too weird. Wonderglade, look out for that. That's coming up, Wonderglade. From Resolution, a tried and tested pillar of the VR community. And finally, a freebie for our PSVR friends. So, a small one, but Tomb Raider. So, PlayStation Plus this month is giving for free to their PlayStation Plus subscribers Rise of the Tomb Raider, which has a VR scene in it, which I think is pretty much a single room and you wander around that room.
Yeah, the mansion.
So it's a mansion.
Yeah.
So it's not like a huge amount, but if you're looking for a freebie, then go and download that. If you didn't know, if you have a PSVR sitting on the side and you're like, oh, right, I like Tomb Raider, well, then it's your first chance to go play a classic title and at the same time get a little bit of VR for free. So there you go. That's the releases and a quick little tip at the end there from Old Zim.
Nice. I'm actually looking forward to checking out that Room Escape one. I like the look of that one. Yeah. For sure. So yeah, we've rambled on for quite a bit now, so we'll just wrap up the show and sort of say goodbye. I'll just quickly summarize the show details. So just a reminder, it's a weekly show. We go live every Saturday on YouTube and Twitch. You can also catch the show live in VR using Big Screen TV, which is totally epic, and thank you for them for helping us out with the show as well, particularly promoting the events on the Oculus platform, which is super nice. The show goes live at 7 p.m. in Europe, 6 p.m. in the UK, and 12 midday in Central US. You can also check out the audio version, which is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Smash that like button if that's what you're into, and make sure you subscribe to the channel because it super helps us out. Thank you again for the super chats. We've had a few throughout the show, so thank you. I just want to acknowledge you for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. Yeah, so that is it for now. We're going to be back next week. Hopefully Rowdy will be back as well, and I'll be giving you, my thoughts on the chill decks, which I know you're all aching to know all about. That's going to be your highlight next week. So look forward to that review. So have a great week in VR. Happy Independence Day. Thank you for joining us live, and until next week, take care and bye-bye for now.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye.